Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was a light-hearted shonen anime which you probably saw on your Saturday morning cartoons. And that's mostly what it's remembered as. That is until, gradually, this show became less about high school drama and more about diving into the dark side of the soul, using real psychological frameworks. If you watched up until season 3 in the West, you would have got a slight taste of this. This anime's third arc essentially being a thinly veiled Jungian metaphor. It exposed real psychological issues, drives, and human needs. Some of the depictions being so raw and adult that it had to be censored. But by the time season 4 arrived, the themes, imagery, and overall messaging had reached an intensity that could no longer be tolerated. So much so, it was partly why the show was never released in the West, but what they hid from us was a psychological masterpiece that not only dives even deeper into real psychological concepts, but an ambitious journey that shows the mind and the outer world may be one in the same. It's 2 AM and we're about to dive deep into the Yu-Gi-Oh! Rabbit hole. To understand what's really going on in season 4, we have to briefly overview what happened in season 3 and its connections to Carl Jung's psychological model, which I will do now. But if you want a full understanding of this, I recommend my previous video here. In short, season 3 portrays Judai's individuation, Jung's process of self-discovery, by integrating the psyche's hidden aspects to achieve wholeness. It begins with confronting his shadow, the Supreme King, embodying his powerful yet dangerous unconscious traits. This progresses to embracing his anima, the contrasexual side of the soul, via Yugioh. By balancing the shadow's hypermasculinity, Judai fully integrates his hidden self, unlocking his character's true potential. And when he returns to Duel Academy, those around him immediately notice the change. But it's not what you'd expect. Judai is less fun, more mature, and more concerned with the world at large. His growth becomes a source of friction as the carefree teenager his friends once knew is gone. And that's made clear by Professor Daitakuji, who tells Judai that after merging with Yubel, he has found his true self. This discovery comes at a cost, and will set him on an entirely different path. A path that is conveniently soon revealed by Sayu and Kagamaru, who warn Judai of a strange energy on the island, and that the same darkness that infected all of them is back. But despite all three having committed the same sin, as Jaden says, being falling into the dark power behind all previous seasons, they suggest Judai alone has the power to overcome it. Why? Because his journey is no longer the same as theirs. Where most people spend their lives wrestling with individuation, Judai has already reached the next stage, embodying the self archetype. The self archetype, also known as the God image, is the orchestrating nucleus within the entire psychological model. It's the center which draws in and unifies the mind. It's the voice or figure in your dreams, drawing your conscious self in. Judai now takes on this same archetype. Having already faced and integrated his own shadow, he stands apart from the rest. Culturally, figures like Buddha or Jesus embody this archetype. Their inner work is complete. Instead, their role shifts outward, guiding, teaching, and healing others. Judai now takes on that same role. Having faced and integrated his own shadow, his new path is not internal, but external, leading others through what he has already overcome. This is the transformation Season 4 is built on. Judai is no longer fighting for his own soul, but for the soul of others. And in that process, he'll uncover something even greater about the nature of reality itself. But now we know what type of journey Judai must go on, but we're now brought to the show's central mystery. What is the power that will force Judai to save others and undergo this new journey? This threat emerges subtly. Duel Monsters cards no longer seem to be working, emitting a strange dark vapor. Alongside that, we have the dual spirit Honest, masquerading as an ex-student, Fujiwara, one of the friends who went missing in the abandoned dorm, with Fubunki, who we learn had some interaction with the same darkness he was possessed of. Honest attempts to burn these cards as Fujiwara, but it's too late. The darkness within them finally manifests, and the figure we see, we initially know little of. But in their first duel with Judai, they play a card with an interesting name, Dark Archetype. Yet another Jungian reference, at least confirming our suspicion the plot will continue his ideas. It's only in the second and third duel with this character we're properly introduced. Truman, who works as an emissary for darkness. How does he work to serve this antagonist? Well, that's finally shown in the backstory of side character Serrano, and that's exactly when we fall into the rabbit hole. As a child, Serrano began to manifest the darkness we've been seeing once he began to feel anguish and hatred toward his cards. So much so that it somehow summoned Truman and led to some kind of possession. This hints at the nature of darkness, but it goes deeper. Soon after this introduction, we see O'Brien is investigating this entire mystery on behalf of Judai in Domino City. That's when he notices suddenly the names on his research disappear. But even more strangely, the city itself physically seems too empty. While wandering the hollowed streets, O'Brien is led by an apparition into a hallway, and that apparition turns out to be Truman. But this time, it's no mere tactical duel, because Truman begins to shift once again, this time as O'Brien's own father. And that's where the mind games begin. As his father, he reminds O'Brien of his choice to save his father over his mother in a burning car accident, continually prodding open the suppressed guilt hidden in O'Brien's shadow, with even his volcanic queen card appearing as a burning vision of his own mother. This is the final straw. Truman opens up O'Brien's hidden wounds, so much so that the inclination toward death is preferable. And turns out, that's exactly what Truman offers. A chance to become one with darkness, which is described as a state free of consciousness and its pains. And that's what we've been searching for. We have found the true nature of the antagonist. Judai will be facing an entity that causes the same confrontation he has faced in the previous season, a face-off against the Jungian shadow. Except here, there's something different. Truman's prodding at the hidden content within the character's unconscious is not only a way of amplifying the character's shadow, but it's a way to make it so unbearable that they unlock a new drive, a drive to feel non-conscious, to feel at one of a greater whole. This compulsion psychologically is reminiscent of the death drive, an idea posed by Freud that human life has an inherent compulsion to return to its supposedly inorganic origin, with things like trauma allowing it to especially become present. Whether Freud's reasoning for this is true is unimportant. What is true is that death feels like a kind of peace, a state where we're not governed by our chaotic conscious and unconscious drives, goals, and expectations. This is Judai's same enemy as before. But just like he has evolved onto a new journey of embodying the self-archetype, so too the forces that control the shadow have evolved. Now, not only a force that brings out the unconscious, but one that causes a total despair and longing to live in a state outside of their psychological structure. And this evolved form of a psychological enemy he once faced will also test Judai and see if he is truly capable of reaching his next stage of evolution. And it comes sooner than later. After going after O'Brien, Judai is inexplicably saved by Sayu from a group of Truman, where he takes him to the Kybercorp building. Though in reality, this is a trap. He has placed a card infected with darkness in Judai's deck. In this duel, Sayo, though not fully consumed by darkness, adopts its defeatist ideology. Even while dueling to save his sister, he believes that if the struggle with one's unconscious and the world is endless disappointment, like he has experienced, then the journey toward individuation is meaningless. This causes Sayo to bring into question Judai's own perceived progress. Specifically, through the Arcana Fool card Judai is forced to play. Here, this is not just some mechanic, it becomes the duel's focal point. Sayo repeatedly compares Judai to the card. Significant, because Jung himself saw the Fool as a juvenile archetypal pattern, one who does not see the dangers ahead, or, as Sayo interprets it, a journey with no end. Sayo is essentially trying to regress Judai to an earlier stage of his psychological development. Though Judai ultimately wins, the encounter leaves a clear mark on him. After escaping the building's explosion, Judai struggles under the lingering effects, even mistaking Jesse for another Truman. Only after Rainbow Dragon intervenes does he come to. But having survived, there is no doubt. Judai embodies the self-archetype, the only one capable of drawing others out of their darkness. Yet even as this is revealed, a greater shadow still hangs over Duel Academy. One that will push the struggle beyond the psychological and into something far deeper. Judai returns to Duel Academy, but it suffered the same fate as Domino City. In fact, only Fubuki is left, wandering the empty halls as he tries to recall his friendships. Only when he puts back on his old mask to peer into the darkness does he see his friend's fate. Each held in the same murky ocean of souls, they relive their worst fears over and over again. Manjome is doomed to draw the wrong card again and again, losing a duel that ends his career, a reflection of his inferiority complex and deep fear of inadequacy. Sho faces an opponent who abandons the duel, shunning him because of the low stakes, mirroring his anxiety about disappointing others and needing external validation. Asuka fails to encourage her students, unable to inspire them or lead them, embodying her fear of incompetence and her self-doubt as a teacher. But these nightmares only grow when Fubuki is confronted by an old friend, Fujiwara. As they duel, it's clear that Fujiwara, once a close friend to Fubuki, has become the main emissary for the force of darkness. He taunts Fubuki by retelling the grim fates of their mutual friends, all while probing for the hidden shadows of Fubuki's own heart. His goal is to amplify those buried traumas and doubts until Fubuki is overwhelmed, succumbing to despair and just like the others joining the void. But it's not this which I want to focus on, because the real thing to take from this duel is the symbolism, as it suggests this arc isn't just a giant psychological metaphor, but it's a greater idea about reality itself. Let's break this down and show how it all leads to a greater puzzle. First, take the most prominent symbol at this point, the sideways, upside down sickle moon, hanging in the sky. While this inverted form isn't a classical symbol on its own, its upright counterpart, the horned moon, has deep roots in ancient mythology and mysticism, often linked to fertility, growth, and divine energy. Its cup-like shape is seen as a vessel that holds and channels life-giving forces from the heavens. But when flipped upside down, as it is here, the symbolism twists. The cup empties, pouring out that vital energy into nothingness. It's as if the world's creative spark is draining away, leaving everything in a state of stagnation and decay. This isn't just an atmospheric backdrop, it's a visual whisper that something cosmic is out of balance, but still tied to the character's inner chaos. We see this echoed even more vividly in the visions of Fubuki's friends. Sho, Manjome, and Asuka are first consumed by a raging flood, a torrent that symbolises the overwhelming crash of their unresolved traumas. Sho's fear of abandonment, Manjome's inferiority complex, Asuka's self-doubt as a leader. Then they're deposited into a vast, still pool, a murky, stagnant body of water where they float aimlessly, trapped in an endless loop of despair. This progression from chaotic deluge to dead calm water isn't accidental. It's a reflection of how their psychological wounds don't just stay internal, they spill out, reshaping the environment around them. Think of Truman's earlier tactics. He's shapeshifting to embody personal demons. His near omniscient grasp of hidden traumas. These aren't isolated mind games. Combined with the moon's inversion and the watery visions, they suggest a profound interconnection. The inner psychic reality isn't confined to the mind. It's mirroring, even influencing the outer world in ways that feel almost metaphysical. This idea of the external world echoing the internal psyche and vice versa draws from a lesser known Jungian concept called the Unus Mundus, or one world. Jung envisioned it as a unified reality where psyche and matter intertwine as aspects of the same whole. Through synchronicity, inner struggles shape outer events, like a dream or premonition before a sudden life event. In GX, characters' despair similarly reshapes reality. Empty cities, cosmic floods, inverted moons, revealing the psyche's deep link to the cosmos. This is GX's profound revelation. Judai's journey to guide others through their inner darkness is also a battle for the cosmic soul, so to speak. But if these symbolic clues seem like a leap, they're grounded explicitly in Darkness's cosmology story, which unveils the intricate bond between mind and universe. To unravel this bond, Darkness's cosmology story frames the Duel Monsters cards as the universe's origin, a duality that echoes Taoist principles. From a limitless void the card emerges. Its face embodies the world of form, its back a formless void. In Taoism, Wuji, the limitless void gives rise to Taiji, the great ultimate, the first principle containing all polarity. Mirrored in GX as the first card, from Taiji unfolds yin and yang, complementary forces of light and dark, active and passive, reflected in the card's dual faces. The card's back akin to yin, signifying stillness and passivity. When unbalanced, this stillness becomes too still, psychologically evoking stagnation, unreceptiveness, and a pull toward death, free from the mind's drive to grow. In Taoist tradition, this yin state is symbolized as water, with returning to the void likened to a drop dissolving into the ocean. Eerily mirrored in GX, where characters like Sho, Manjomi, and Asuka become drops in a cosmic pool of murky water. This Taoist cosmology is used as a way of revealing outer matter's connection with the mind, specifically how despair is directly connected to metaphysical void. Darkness claims Yin's stillness is an immutable order, and resisting it only breeds pain. And if it's true that darkness is a part of reality itself, what can Judai do to stop it? Darkness finally appears, embodying the immutable cosmic force in his final duel with Judai, asserting he's an intrinsic aspect of reality itself. He claims the despair trapping Judai's friends is self-inflicted, a surrender to Yin's stillness. It's their choice. They don't need to be saved. And he strengthens this argument by providing a mirror into the future where humanity's unresolved conflicts manifest as a world of pain and destruction, the result of rejecting Yin's darkness. Even Darkness's cards reflects the reality and tragic future of rejecting him. Plant-type monsters, modelled after brambles and thorn bushes, species notorious for choking and stunting growth, symbolise the crushing forces that life exerts on potential. The message is clear. To live is to risk being choked. Darkness's most powerful card, Neosphere, embodies this perfectly. An angelic creature ensnared by thorns, showing that even total innocence and purity has the same fate of everything else. Yet Judai, undeterred by this chilling logic and symbolism, stands resolute. Judai tells Darkness he acquired the power of darkness to defeat things like you. This is a clear reference to Judai's confrontation with his shadow. Though it nearly led to his destruction, facing his inner dualities forged a higher state of being, showing struggle isn't the end, and that he is proof that darkness isn't humanity's fate. But darkness counters this, admitting that Judai may be strong enough to reach this state, but the rest of the world is not, and this is where Judai finally gains the upper hand. He states it wasn't his own brute strength of will that allowed him to overcome his dualities, but by trusting in his cards, he was able to overcome his internal state. This may sound crazy, even a little silly to us. However, in the universe of the show, cards and dueling is how characters go after goals and form their identity. And it even admits that though they may have began as inanimate objects, through experience, they are records of the journey toward greater goals. That's why Judai in this universe is able to awaken all those lost in their despair, that the cards they possess are proof of the internal spark, the self they are able to become. Judai as the perfect example of one who has overcome darkness, fittingly ends the duel with his divinized Neos, his inner reflection in a card as the divine individuated saviour figure. Proof of the ability to overcome the shadow and the even greater darkness beyond. To conclude this all, Season 4 continues one of Yugioh's most ambitious arcs. Building on Jung's theories, once Jaden becomes the individuated god image, his journey naturally turns outward, guiding others through the process he has already completed. While the Season 4 enemy amplifies and overwhelms people through their shadows, Jaden's method of saving his friends and the world is not by delving into each mind, but by confronting the nature of the world itself. In GX, the world reflects the inner mind, and vice versa. Confronting one is, in effect, confronting the other. The show gestures towards broader ideas of synchronicity and the mind's embedded connection to the external world. While GX doesn't fully explain these connections, it illustrates them through taoist cosmology, which already carries psychological undertones. These elements elevate the show above the standard shonen formula. Does it fully resolve these ideas it raises? Not really. Having Judai ask others to reflect through their card is somewhat oversimplified. Yet it remains true that we can look to relationships, even objects, that have our experience embedded within them as sources of motivation, strength to move forward. But whatever your thoughts, thanks for watching.